Do you ever wonder what happens in the universe when someone takes advantage of genuine love? When someone with pure intentions encounters betrayal? Today, I want to talk about something profound that affects many relationships. Something that carries consequences far beyond what we can immediately see with our eyes. Imagine this. A woman who has given her all, her time, her energy, her heart, suddenly finds herself betrayed by the very person she trusted most. The man who promised to cherish her has caused her pain instead. What follows isn't just emotional turmoil. It's a series of cosmic shifts that few people understand. I've spent years studying human behavior, energy, and the invisible threads that connect our actions to our destinies. And I've noticed patterns, consistent, undeniable patterns that emerge when genuine goodness encounters mistreatment. These aren't just theories. These are observations from countless stories shared with me, experiences I've witnessed, and truths that have stood the test of time. When a man hurts a good woman, he isn't just affecting one relationship. He's creating ripples in his own life's trajectory that will return to him in ways he never anticipated. Today, I want to walk you through what really happens when someone takes advantage of a pure heart. Not to spread negativity, but to understand the profound way the universe responds to our actions. Before we go further, this isn't about gender wars or pointing fingers. This is about understanding the consequences of breaking trust with someone who approached a relationship with authenticity. While I frame this discussion around a man hurting a woman, these principles apply to any relationship where genuine love is betrayed. Let's begin with what happens to the woman first. When a good woman experiences betrayal, she goes through a transformation that most people fail to recognize. Initially, there's shock. Her mind struggles to reconcile the person she thought she knew with the actions she's experiencing. This cognitive dissonance creates the first crack in her perception, not just of him, but of how she views relationships altogether. Many people assume that the primary emotion a betrayed partner feels is sadness. But that's not accurate. The first profound emotion is often disbelief. Her entire reality is being questioned. Everything she thought was true suddenly isn't. Every memory becomes suspect. Did he mean those kind words? Was that loving gesture genuine? The foundation of her recent history starts to feel like shifting sand beneath her feet. This disbelief quickly transforms into something more complex, a mixture of anger, sadness, and most significantly, a questioning of her own judgment. How did I not see this coming becomes a haunting question. This self-doubt is perhaps the most painful part of the initial aftermath. It's not just about losing him, it's about losing trust in her own ability to perceive truth. But here's where the magic happens. And yes, I call it magic because the transformation that follows contains elements of alchemy that turn pain into profound personal power. When a good woman processes betrayal, she doesn't just recover, she evolves. The first stage of this evolution involves separation. Not just physical separation from the person who caused harm, but separation from the old version of herself that allowed the harmful dynamic to exist. This separation period is crucial. It's the cocoon phase where the most important internal changes begin to take shape. During this time, something remarkable happens to her energy. The universe has a way of compensating for significant losses. When someone approaches relationships with authenticity and experiences betrayal, their energy field begins to shift. The very qualities that made her vulnerable to mistreatment start to transform into discernment. Her openness doesn't disappear, it becomes more selective. Her trust doesn't vanish, it becomes more earned. I've watched this transformation hundreds of times. A woman who has been deeply hurt by someone she trusted doesn't become bitter in the long run. If she processes the pain properly, she becomes extraordinarily wise. Her intuition sharpens. Her boundaries strengthen. Her capacity for joy actually expands because she's no longer leaking energy into relationships that drain her. This energetic shift creates a magnetic change around her. People start responding to her differently. Opportunities arrive that weren't present before. It's as if the universe says, now that you're no longer accepting less than you deserve, here's what was waiting for you all along. But what about the man who caused the hurt? What follows for him? This is where things get really interesting, and why I believe understanding these dynamics can be transformative for everyone involved. When a man betrays the trust of a good woman, he sets in motion a series of consequences that unfold over time. The first thing that happens is almost imperceptible to him. There's a subtle shift in his energy field, an imbalance that occurs when we act against integrity. This imbalance doesn't immediately manifest as misfortune. In fact, sometimes there's a temporary feeling of freedom or power that comes from acting without regard for others' feelings. This temporary high is deceptive. It masks the beginning of an energetic debt that will eventually require payment. I've observed that men who habitually hurt good women often experience a growing disconnection from themselves. They might not recognize it at first, but authentic joy becomes more elusive. Genuine connections become harder to form. There's a hollowness that begins to permeate experiences that should bring fulfillment. The universe operates on principles of balance. When someone consistently takes emotional energy without reciprocating, when they accept authenticity and return deception, a deficit begins to grow. This deficit doesn't just affect future romantic relationships. It affects all areas of life where genuine connection matters. I've seen it happen countless times. The man who betrays a good woman's trust often finds that his ability to trust others also diminishes. His perception becomes skewed. He begins to suspect others of the same behaviors he's exhibited. A type of emotional isolation sets in where he's unable to fully receive love, even when it's genuinely offered later. This isn't about punishment. The universe isn't vindictive. These consequences aren't about evening a score. They're about restoring balance and creating opportunities for growth. When someone acts in ways that hurt others, they create distance from their own authentic self. This distance becomes the real consequence, a separation from the joy, connection, and peace that come from living in alignment with integrity. The most fascinating part is how this plays out in future relationships. When a man has hurt a good woman, he carries that energetic imprint into his next connections. He often subconsciously seeks out similar dynamics, either by choosing partners who will hurt him in return, or by recreating patterns where trust becomes an issue. It's as if the unresolved energy needs to play itself out until the lesson is learned. I've counseled many men who couldn't understand why they kept experiencing breakdown after breakdown in their relationships. When we traced it back, we often discovered a significant instance where they had betrayed someone's trust, someone who had been genuinely good to them, and they had never acknowledged or addressed the impact of their actions. The acknowledgement is crucial. Without recognizing what we've done, we can't transform the pattern. This is why some people seem to cycle through the same relationship dynamics repeatedly. The lesson keeps presenting itself until it's recognized and integrated. But there's hope in this understanding. When someone recognizes the impact of their actions and takes responsibility, not just through words, but through changed behavior, the pattern can transform. The energetic debt can begin to be repaid, not through grand gestures, but through consistent alignment with integrity. Which is contrasted truth of this understanding can benefit everyone. For women who have been hurt, recognizing these universal patterns helps remove the personal sting of rejection. The betrayal wasn't about your worth. It was about the other person's disconnect from themselves and their own integrity. For men who have caused hurt, understanding these dynamics offers a pathway to genuine change, not just in romantic relationships, but in your connection to yourself and your own well-being. The barriers to happiness that many experience later in life can often be traced back to moments when they compromised their integrity in significant relationships. Now, let's talk about the fascinating pattern I have observed regarding timing. Have you noticed how life seems to present us with similar situations repeatedly until we respond differently? When someone betrays trust in a relationship, the universe does immediately deliver consequences. Instead, it presents opportunities for recognition and growth. These opportunities often come disguised as new relationships. A man who has hurt a good woman will often find himself attracted to someone who reminds him of her. This isn't coincidence. It's the universe creating a chance for different choices. Each new relationship becomes a potential turning point, a chance to act with greater integrity. Those opportunities are missed, something interesting happens. The lessons tend to become more intense. The pain that was caused to others is a way of circling back in different forms. This isn't karma in the punitive sense that most people think of. It's more like an educational system designed to create awareness. I have watched men who have been repeatedly betrayed trust eventually find themselves in situations where they experience similar betrayal. Not because they're being punished, but because experiencing both sides of a dynamic is sometimes the most powerful teacher. When you feel what you've caused others to feel, understanding dawns in a way that intellectual knowledge can never provide. The most significant consequence for someone who hurts a good woman isn't external at all, it's internal. It's the growing distance from their own authentic self. Each act that breaks trust with others breaks something within us first. We lose touch with our innate wisdom. We disconnect from our capacity for genuine joy. We create internal walls that keep out pain, but also block deep connection. This internal fragmentation creates a particular kind of suffering. On the surface, life might look successful. There might be new relationships, achievements, or possessions, but internally, there's often a persistent sense that something important has been lost. That something is authentic connection, first with oneself, and consequently with others. What's particularly interesting is how this affects a person's life force and creative energy. When we live out of alignment with integrity, we leak vital energy, sustaining deception. Even deception we've rationalized requires energy. Maintaining walls between different parts of ourselves demands constant effort. This energy depletion often manifests as chronic fatigue, reduced motivation, or a persistent sense that life should feel more fulfilling than it does. I've worked with highly successful individuals who couldn't understand why, despite all their achievements, they felt empty inside. When we explored their histories, we often found significant betrayals they had never acknowledged or addressed. Their energy was being continually drained by the unresolved dishonors between who they presented themselves to be and the actions they had taken. Now, this energy deficit doesn't just affect emotional well-being, it affects physical health, creative output, and even professional success in the long run. We are holistic beings. What happens in our intimate relationships affects every other aspect of our existence. But there's profound hope in understanding these dynamics. The same universal principles that bring consequences for breaking trust also reward its restoration. When someone genuinely acknowledges the impact of their actions, makes amends where possible, and commits to living with greater integrity, remarkable transformations can occur. I've witnessed men who had patterns of hurting good women completely transform their lives by facing this aspect of themselves. The energy that was once consumed by maintaining deception becomes available for creation and genuine connection. Relationships transform, opportunities expand, an authentic sense of peace becomes possible. This transformation isn't about public confession or dramatic gestures. It's about honest internal reckoning and a commitment to different choices moving forward. It's about recognizing that how we treat those who love us defines much more than those individual relationships. It shapes our relationship with life itself. For the women who have been hurt, understanding these dynamics offers a different kind of healing. Recognizing that the betrayal wasn't about your inadequacy, but about the other person's disconnect from integrity, can release the burden of self-blame that many carry. Your worth wasn't being accurately assessed. It was being filtered through someone else's inability to recognize and honor value. The pain you experienced wasn't wasted. It initiated a powerful transformation that continues to unfold. The wisdom you've gained through processing that pain becomes a gift, not just to yourself, but to everyone your life touches. Your strengthened boundaries and sharpened intuition serve a purpose beyond self-protection. They become the foundation for more authentic connections in every area of your life. I've observed something remarkable about women who have fully processed the pain of betrayal. They often develop an exceptional ability to recognize authenticity in others. It's as if having experienced its opposite creates a heightened sensitivity to genuine integrity. This developed discernment becomes an invaluable guide, not just in romantic relationships, but in friendships, work partnerships, and all significant connections. This brings us to an important distinction. Processing pain is very different from becoming defined by it. When betrayal occurs, there's a crossroads. One path leads to bitterness, a closing of the heart that prevents further hurt, but also blocks joy. The other path leads through the pain to expanded wisdom and an even greater capacity for meaningful connection. The difference between these paths isn't determined by the severity of the betrayal. I've seen people transform devastating betrayals into profound wisdom, while others allow minor hurts to close their hearts permanently. The determining factor isn't what happened to you, it's how you integrate the experience. This integration requires something that our culture rarely encourages: feeling the full spectrum of emotions without becoming identified with them. When betrayal occurs, there's legitimate anger, sadness, and grief. These emotions contain vital energy and information. Suppressing them doesn't protect you. It prolongs the healing process and often leads to physical manifestations of the unprocessed feelings. Fully experiencing these emotions without becoming trapped in them is an art. It requires presence and courage. But each time you allow yourself to feel without becoming defined by those feelings, you reclaim pieces of your power that may have been fragmented by the betrayal. As this reclamation happens, something extraordinary occurs. The very experience that could have dimmed your light instead causes it to burn more brightly. The contrast between how you were treated and what you deserve becomes starkly clear. This clarity isn't about dwelling in victimhood, it's about recognizing your inherent worth with unshakable certainty. This recognition transforms how you move through the world. When you know your worth with certainty, you no longer need external validation to feel secure. This inner security becomes magnetic. It attracts people and opportunities that match your authentic energy while naturally repelling those that don't. I've watched women who embrace this transformation step into levels of success and fulfillment that weren't accessible before the painful experience. It's as if the betrayal, fully processed, becomes a catalyst for expansion rather than contraction. The heart doesn't just heal, it enlarges, capable of greater discernment and deeper connection than before. The men who have caused hurt, understanding these dynamics offers equally transformative potential. Recognizing the impact of past actions isn't about shame. It's about reclaiming disconnected aspects of yourself. Each time we act against integrity, we separate from our authentic nature. Acknowledging those actions begins the process of This reintegration isn't achieved through self-punishment. It comes through honest self-reflection, making amends where possible, and committed changed behavior. It's about recognizing that treating others with respect and honesty isn't just the right thing to do, it's the foundation for your own well-being and fulfillment. I've worked with men who transform patterns of betrayal into extraordinary integrity. The same intensity that once fueled destructive behaviors becomes redirected toward positive growth. The sensitivity that they may have protected through emotional walls becomes a strength rather than a vulnerability. Their capacity for genuine connection expands in all areas of life. This transformation often coincides with unexpected improvements in other aspects of life. Career opportunities expand, creative blocks dissolve, physical vitality increases. It's as if the energy that was once consumed by maintaining disconnection becomes available for creation and authentic expression. The most profound change occurs in their capacity for joy. When we're living out of alignment with our deeper nature, moments of happiness tend to be fleeting, quickly replaced by restlessness or discontent. As integration happens and integrity becomes consistent, genuine joy becomes more accessible. Life feels meaningful in a way that external achievements alone can never provide. This brings us to a critical understanding about relationships and personal growth. The dynamics between men and women aren't just about romance or compatibility. They're mirrors reflecting our relationship with ourselves, opportunities for healing, and catalysts for evolution. When a man hurts a good woman, both are presented with transformative opportunities disguised as painful challenges. For her, the opportunity lies in reclaiming her power, refining her discernment, and expanding her capacity for joy beyond what was possible before. For him, the opportunity lies in recognizing the impact of his actions, reconciling fragmented aspects of himself, and aligning with his authentic nature. These opportunities don't disappear if missed initially. They return in different forms, often with increasing intensity, until the lesson is integrated. This is why some people find themselves repeating the same relationship patterns despite sincerely wanting something different. The unlearned lesson continues presenting itself until it's recognized. Recognition is the turning point. For both the person who experienced betrayal and the person who caused it, seeing the pattern clearly is the essential first step toward transformation. This seeing isn't about judgment. It's about honest acknowledgement of what has occurred and its impact. Once recognition happens, new choices become possible. For women who have been hurt, this might look like establishing different boundaries, honoring your intuition even when it contradicts what someone is telling you, and consciously choosing connections that reflect your worth rather than diminish it. For men who have caused hurt, new choices might include developing greater emotional honesty, examining the fears that drive deceptive behavior, and practicing integrity even in small moments where dishonesty seems easier or more comfortable. These new choices initially require conscious effort. Old patterns have neural pathways well established in the brain. Creating new patterns demands awareness and repetition. But with consistent practice, these new ways of being become natural. What once required effort becomes automatic. The energy that was expended on maintaining unhealthy dynamics becomes available for growth and authentic connection. This brings us to an important aspect of healing and transformation. It happens in layers rather than all at once. Just when you think you've fully processed a betrayal or transformed a pattern, a deeper level may reveal itself. This isn't a sign of failure. It's how genuine integration works. I've observed that significant healing often happens in cycles. There's progress, then a plateau where the new awareness is integrated, then another opportunity to go deeper. These cycles aren't random. They synchronize with our readiness to address the next layer. Hitting plateaus, it's common to feel like you've regressed or that nothing is changing. But seen from a broader perspective, these apparent stagnant periods are actually integration phases where new insights are being embodied at cellular levels. When the next cycle of active transformation begins, you're building on this embodied foundation rather than starting over. This layered healing applies both to recovering from betrayal and transforming patterns of causing hurt. The process isn't linear for either experience. It's more like a spiral, where you revisit similar themes, but from progressively higher vantage points, seeing more clearly each time you circle around. Understanding the spiraling nature helps maintain patience during the transformation process. Healing and growth take time, not because the insights are complicated, but because embodying them requires neurological and energetic shifts that cannot be rushed. What accelerates these shifts is consistent alignment between awareness and action. When you recognize a pattern and make different choices based on that recognition, you create coherence between your understanding and your lived experience. This coherence rapidly accelerates transformation. I've watched people struggle for years with the same issues while maintaining a gap between what they know and how they act. When that gap closes, when actions consistently align with awareness, remarkable shifts can happen in surprisingly short periods. This alignment between awareness and action creates a particular quality of energy that attracts corresponding opportunities and relationships. It's as if the universe responds to this internal coherence by reflecting it externally. Situations that once seemed hopelessly complicated begin to resolve. Relationships that felt impossibly challenging transform or gracefully conclude. For women healing from betrayal, this alignment might look like honoring your internal knowing even when external voices contradict it. It might mean maintaining boundaries that feel uncomfortable at first because they're unfamiliar. It might involve allowing yourself to receive support rather than handling everything alone, as you may have done previously. For men, transforming patterns of betrayal, alignment might look like speaking difficult truths even when silence seems easier. It might mean sitting with uncomfortable emotions rather than escaping through distractions or new relationships. It often involves vulnerability with trusted others about struggles and patterns that previously remained hidden. This vulnerability is particularly transformative. There's a misconception that strength means handling everything internally, never revealing struggles or uncertainties. But true strength includes the courage to be seen authentically, not just in our successes, but in our challenges and growth edges. I've worked with men who maintained an image of perfection while internally struggling with patterns they couldn't overcome alone. When they finally allowed themselves to be authentically seen by trusted others, those patterns began to shift. The energy that was consumed by maintaining the perfect image became available for genuine transformation. This doesn't mean indiscriminate disclosure is helpful. Discernment about who earns access to your vulnerable truth is essential. But selective, appropriate vulnerability creates connections that support genuine growth in ways that isolation never can. This brings us to the powerful role of community in healing and transformation. While inner work is essential, we're fundamentally social beings. Our neurological systems are designed to regulate through connection with others. Both healing from betrayal and transforming patterns of causing hurt happen more effectively within the context of supportive community. Finding or creating such community requires courage. After betrayal, trust doesn't come easily. For those working to transform patterns of causing hurt, shame often creates resistance to being seen authentically. But pushing through this initial resistance opens doorways to connections that accelerate healing in remarkable ways. The right community provides mirrors reflecting both your wounding and your magnificence. It offers challenge when you're avoiding growth edges and compassion when you're facing them. It holds space for your process without rushing or judging it. Such community becomes a container where transformation happens more rapidly than is possible in isolation. This community doesn't need to be large. Sometimes a single trusted relationship provides the essential mirroring and support. Sometimes it's a small group united by common commitment to growth. What matters isn't the size, but the quality of connection, the safety to be authentic, combined with the courage to see clearly. Within such containers, both women healing from betrayal and men transforming patterns of causing hurt find their processes accelerated. The neurological co-regulation that happens in trusted connection helps integrate insights that might remain intellectual in isolation. Witnessing others' transformations creates expanded belief in what's possible for yourself.